Namaste. Today, on behalf of the Center for Indic Studies, Indus University, I am pleased to have amongst with us all author, writer, columnist Ajit Datta, and we will be having a discussion of his latest book titled Himanta Biswa Sarma, From Boy Wonder to Chief Minister, uh, where we all know about Himanta the most popular face of Assam and the entire Northeast. Briefly to speak about Ajit ji. Ajit ji is an author and a political commentator. He's also the co-founder of the Pondy Literary Festival and one of the voices behind the popular political social media page called the Frustrated Indian. He writes for many publications and he also appears frequently in these discussions. His book on Himanta Biswa Sarma was one of the best sellers in the last Northeast Book Fair that was held in Guwahati in the month of December. We are very much happy to have amongst us with you today, Ajit, and thank you so much for giving us your time and agreeing to be a part of this, to agree to be a part of this talk. So, without wasting much time, I would directly like to come to the subject of today's discussion. That is your book, Himanta Biswa Sarma, From Boy Wonder to Chief Minister. So, what prompted you to choose this topic in the first place? Why did you choose to write about Himanta ji, first of all? And why not any other person? Why Himanta Biswa Sarma? And also, we would love to hear from you about your experiences while writing this book. You also stayed in Assam. You also came into touch with Himanta Biswa Sarma and his family, as you have narrated in your book. So, what were your experiences in the process of putting everything down in the form of a book? And so just tell us more about it. We are waiting to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Ankita ji, for having me. Uh, so basically, the reason why I chose to write a book like this is because this is the genre of books that I have always enjoyed reading. By this genre, I mean political biographies and specifically political biographies of leaders who are still very, very active in the game because such biographies give you a lot of context of various developments that are taking place, and therefore I had always wanted to work on a project like this. uh, Now post 2014, after the BJP came to power, Hemanta Biswa Sharma emerged on the Indian political scene as one of the most interesting political figures or leaders. This was, of course, after he switched sides in 2015 to the BJP, and then the 2016 Assam elections happened, in which we saw the BJP storming to power in the state for the first time. And after that, when Himanta Biswa Sharma was given charge of what is known as the NEDA, the Northeast Democratic Alliance, we saw that within 2 or 3 years, every state, in fact, in the Northeast, became Congress Mukt. So you either had a BJP government there or you had a government of certain smaller parties, regional parties who were allies of the BJP, but the Congress was completely wiped out of the region. And he was definitely the architect of this transition. Now, at an ideological level, you see that this is a very interesting phenomenon because so many people post 2014 have switched sides to the BJP. But amongst the BJP supporters or the BJP's very core base, there are very few leaders who have managed to generate this kind of enthusiasm or this kind of support for themselves. There's almost like a a cult-like following that he has managed to create in the BJP's supporter base. So this is something that really drew my attention. It's something that I wanted to get down to the bottom of, to see what exactly it was that was generating this kind of reaction from many people who have been supporters of the BJP for a long time, and that too towards a person who was in the Congress just up until 2015. So this is the kind of enthusiasm or the kind of reaction that we do not see in the BJP supporter base for other people who have come from other parties, and we do not even see it for many of the tall BJP leaders who have been in the BJP for so many years. So this is something that was really intriguing. And therefore, because all of these factors put together, the fact that this is the kind of enthusiasm that he generates, as well as how he has emerged as a key political operator in the current era, in the Modi era, especially in the way that he has managed to turn things around for the BJP in the Northeast. All of this made him a really, really interesting person, a great person to write on. And that is the reason why I chose to write this book about him. Now, the moment I had the idea of writing this book about him, I had a chance to meet him, and I pitched the idea to him immediately. And he very casually told me that, why not come to Guwahati, and let's see how we can take this forward. And that's how things really began. And so I went to Guwahati, and I had the chance of staying with him in his house for almost 2 or 3 weeks. And I got a chance to see up close how he functions. I got a chance to uh, hear a lot of anecdotes from him whenever he could spare the time. I got a chance to meet a lot of people who are constantly around him. I got a chance to see the kind of people who whom he is surrounded by, and I got a chance to meet a lot of people who have been a part of his life in different phases. So that is how I managed to gather a lot of information about him, about different phases of his life. I managed to conduct interviews with several people who have played an important part in his life. And later, I continued this exercise, and I continued to take interviews of people who were important people in his life at different phases, and that is how this book really came about.
Yeah, thank you. True, very well said. And also, I completely agree with whatever you said that, especially on the extent of mass support and the enthusiasm that Chief Minister Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma has been able to garner for himself and the BJP itself is intriguing and quite interesting also at the same time. If we have to understand the different patterns in the way the politics in Assam has evolved. Very nice also to hear about your experiences in Guwahati and that you stayed in this place. Yes, you have narrated all these things in your book. So now, after that, I would like to hear from you. I would like to ask you, how would you narrate his story? I mean, the story of this boy whom you have referred to as Boy Wonder, from Boy Wonder to CM. So his ups and downs in his political career, and how he has been able to garner that enthusiasm and mass support around him. Because being a former congressman, there is always an air of suspicion. So how do you see that, and how, most importantly, how would you like to analyze and make us understand his rise in the political scenario of Assam in different periods, beginning from the days of the Assam agitation that was led by the All Assam Students Union (ASU), the Hiteshwar Saikia era, and coming to the era of Chief Minister Tarun Gogoi, who ruled the state for almost for a consecutive period of 15 years, and eventually the rise of the BJP. So I think that will also quite cover the trajectory of Assamese politics quite well. So I would like you to focus on this aspect now.
Yeah, so actually, this is a very interesting question, especially in the current scenario, because as I mentioned, he is somebody who has managed to find a home in the BJP very easily, especially considering that, as you were mentioning, people are generally looked at with a lot of suspicion, etc. But he is somebody who has made it a very natural home, despite the fact that he was in the Congress up until 2015. And to really understand why that is the case, we have to actually go back to 1979, which is the year when the Assam agitation began. So the Assam agitation actually began because basically the issue that was driving this agitation was the issue of illegal immigration into Assam from Bangladesh. And the objective of the Assam movement or the Assam agitation was to either stop this illegal immigration and at the same time to deport those who had illegally immigrated into Assam. Now, this was a very unique movement because it was led by the student community of Assam. So at that time, you had both Prafulla Mahanta and Bhrigu Phukan who were in their 20s, and they were at the helm of the All Assam Students Union, which was the biggest student body in the state. And this ASU, the All Assam Student Union, was leading this Assam agitation. Now, in the year 1979, Himanta Biswa Sharma would have been only 10 years old when this agitation began. But by the time he was 12 or 13 years old, probably 11 or 12 years old actually, he was already in the center of the action because he had been completely taken by this agitation which was taking place in his state. And he had decided to help and to be a part of this agitation. And at such a young age, at the age of 11 or 12, he had managed to become a very important part of the machinery that was at the helm of this agitation. So he was the kind of person who took up several tasks for the Assam movement, for the Assam agitation, especially for the ASU. There were many menial tasks that he took up, simple things such as, painting the walls, pasting posters, etc. And he took up very complicated tasks for them as well, such as interacting with the media, going and giving out the ASU's press statements to various newspapers, going and organizing events, rallies, etc. And he is somebody who was a very natural person on the stage also himself. So he would often address these big crowds, and these big crowds also used to love hearing from a little boy of 10 or 11 who would speak very passionately about their cause. So he became a very integral part of the ASU and the Assam movement at a very young age. Now, the movement, of course, culminated in 1985 because the Assam Accord was signed in 1985. And the Assam Accord was signed on the 15th of August, on Independence Day. And after the signing of the Assam Accord, the then Chief Minister Hiteshwar Saikia, who belonged to the Congress party and who had a mandate which was not really a legitimate mandate because almost the entire state had boycotted that particular election. And as part of this accord, he was supposed to resign, and there was supposed to be a fresh round of elections. So immediately after the Assam Accord was signed, Hiteshwar Saikia resigned. Now, those who were at the helm of the Assam movement at that point, people like Prafulla Mahanta, Bhrigu Phukan, and others who had been at the helm of the All Assam Students Union, formed their own political party, which was the Assam Gana Parishad, or the AGP as we know it. And they formed this party within 3 months, and sorry, they formed this party immediately after the accord was signed, and within 3 months, the elections took place in December of 1985. And the AGP actually managed to sweep the elections. Uh, and Prafulla Mahanta and Brigu Phukan became the chief minister and the home minister of the state, respectively. They were just they were not they were in their late 20s, in fact. So they were two very young people, and they became the chief minister and the home minister of Assam. Now, after this 1985 elections, of course, they lost the following elections, and Hiteshwar Saikia came back to power, etc. But the interesting thing is that ever since the 1985 elections, which took place after the Assam Accord, uh, the Assam Assembly elections used to elect uh, the AGP once, followed by the Congress, followed by the AGP again, followed by the Congress. So it was like this political seesaw that used to go on in the state. And right up until so we had the AGP that was voted out, followed by the Saikia government, as I told you. And then Hiteshwar Saikia himself was voted out in 96. And there was an AGP government until 2001. And then in 2001, Tarun Gogoi came and took over as the chief minister for the Congress party. So what happened after that is a completely different phase of Assam politics, which I will come to. Meanwhile, what happened with Himanta Biswa Sharma was that in 1985 he was still in high school, and then he went to what is the Cotton College. Cotton College is, of course, one of the most prestigious uh, educational institutions in the Northeast. It's considered to be the intellectual crucible or the mother institution of the entire region. And the politics or the student politics of Cotton College is extremely important in the state of Assam, considering the place that student politics has in a state like Assam, where you've had the Assam movement and even other movements which have predominantly stemmed from student movements. And therefore, what happens in Cotton College is of great interest to the people of Assam, as well as to the political class. The political class, in fact, interferes very openly with what happens in the student body elections, etc., in the student politics of Cotton College. And Himanta Biswa Sharma, having been such an important figure in the ASU, who already had a massive hold amongst the youth of the state at that point, especially in the Guwahati region, managed to become the general secretary of the students' body of Cotton College after serving one term as the deputy general secretary, and he held the post of general secretary for a record number of 3 terms, which is still a record today. Nobody has been able to defeat that record. And he lost on the fourth time that he tried to get elected, because by then he had already fallen out with the ASU's leadership. And all the various factions of the student unions had ganged up against him. But what had happened for this shift to happen was that Hiteshwar Saikia, as the chief minister, had co-opted Himanta Biswa Sharma. So Hiteshwar Saikia, of course, is probably the biggest or the most the deadliest enemy that the Assam movement had right from the beginning, because it was under his tenure that he managed to bring them to the table and get them to sign the Assam Accord. It was under him that he broke the Ulfa's back. It was also under him that he finally broke the Asu's back. So that was, of course, with Himanta Biswa Sharma's help. So just as an aside, before that, when the AGP came about in 1985, that's when these distinctions or these lines within the Assam movement appeared. Because prior to that, there were several kinds of students from different walks of life who were taking part in this. And they were expressing themselves in different ways. Some of them were uh, more into the political fight. Some of them had taken up arms. Some of them were artists. And therefore, after the AGP became a political party, these lines sort of came about distinguishing various groups within these movements, and you had the UNFA, which was after that termed as a terrorist organization. You had the ASU, which became like the mother organization, although it was still a student union. And then you had the AGP, which had become a political party. So now Himanta Biswa Sharma was a very important part of the ASU. Still, he was the secretary of the Guwahati unit. And Hiteshwar Saikia realized that, and the Guwahati unit was, of course, the main unit of the ASU. Hiteshwar Saikia realized at that point that the entire movement or the entire All Assam Students Union is being held, is literally, there is this one nodal point for it, which is this person called Himanta Biswa Sharma, who's in his early 20s and who's, a student in Cotton College at that time and who's a student leader. And so he decided to co-opt Himanta Biswa Sharma, and he did it. He was the state's chief minister at that time. And Himanta Biswa Sharma became very close to him. He became one of his closest aides, in fact, and he began to assist Hiteshwar Saikia in many ways. He became his complete right-hand man in a sense. And that is how, using Himanta Biswa Sharma, Hiteshwar Saikia managed to break the ASUs back in several college campuses across the state. And because of Himanta Biswa Sharma switching over, there were several others who had switched over with him. He was also given a post, which was a ministerial level post after that, which allowed him to reach out to the youth from the on the behalf of the government, and so on. Now, the 1996 elections were approaching, and by then Himanta Biswa Sharma had was fostering a constituency on the outskirts of Guwahati called Jalukbari. The specialty of this constituency was that Bhrigu Phukan himself was the MLA from that constituency. But Hiteshwar Saikia decided to back Himanta Biswa Sharma, and Himanta Biswa Sharma ran a very spirited campaign there in the 1996 for the 1996 assembly elections. However, towards the end of the campaign, Hiteshwar Saikia fell sick. He even passed away actually at the end of that sickness. And when Hiteshwar Saikia fell sick, Himanta Biswa Sharma's campaign completely fell apart uh, because Hiteshwar Saikia had been the chief strategist not just for Himanta Biswa Sharma but for several other Congress candidates. He was also bringing in the funds. He was also mobilizing the cadres, etc. And so Himanta Biswa Sharma narrowly lost that election. But after that, when the AGP came to power, suddenly from being this, blue-eyed boy of the chief minister who was going to make a big mark in the state's politics, he suddenly had his back against the wall because now he did not have his mentor or his guide with him anymore. Hiteshwar Saikia had passed away. And he had very powerful enemies within the Congress party because a lot of people had been jealous of his rise at such a young age. In fact, before the 96 elections, they had all complained to Narasimha Rao that this boy should not be given a ticket. And Hiteshwar Saikia had put his foot down and made sure that Himanta Biswa Sharma actually got that ticket. So there was a lot of people in the Congress who were not very happy with his rise. Of course, the AGP was completely, the AGP did not like him at all because they considered him to be somebody who had betrayed their cause at a very crucial juncture in time. And because of Saikia's entire Operation Rhino, which had targeted the ULFA, he was also on the ULFA's list of targets because he had been Saikia's protege back then. So all these factors really put him on a back foot, and he decided that he would leave Assam, he would leave politics in the state, and he had become a lawyer by then. So he decided that he would go to Delhi and practice in the Supreme Court because as Saikia's aide, he had already briefed a lot of the top lawyers in Delhi for various issues. So he had his contacts there. A lot of them were ready to even welcome him into their chambers, etc. So he made his way to Delhi and he met Narasimha Rao there again. And Narasimha Rao told him that just go back to your constituency and focus on that because nobody notices the winning MLA when he comes to the constituency. But if the losing candidate sticks around there and stands with the people, people take notice, and that is how you will win your next election. So, a former prime minister, probably the tallest leader in the country at that point, was telling him this, so he could not even say no. So he had to return to Guwahati immediately after he went to Delhi. And there he again sort of slowly he started working in the Guwahati High Court. He was a phenomenal lawyer, so immediately he got several clients. He began to build a very successful practice for himself. He started to earn money. He started to go to the constituency again. Again sort of started working on the ground there and things like that. And by then, of course, the AGP had a split, and the ULFA and the AGP had turned on each other. So the situation or the circumstances for him began to improve. I mean, he was not under constant threat anymore and things like that. And he finally was selected to fight the 2001 elections on a Congress ticket from the same constituency. And he finally, this time, he left no stone unturned. He did not depend on anybody, and he made sure to run a very meticulous campaign, which was very well taken care of from all sides. And he managed to finally defeat Bhigu Phukan in 2001. So 2001 was the year when the Congress party won, because it was a completely cyclical thing back then, where the AGP and the Congress used to win one term each. And Torun Gogoi, who was the leader of the Congress party at that point in Assam, became the chief minister of Assam. Now, Himanta Biswa Sharma was a first-time MLA, but in 2002 itself, just 1 year into his stint as a first-time MLA, he was selected as a minister for state in the Torun Gogoi government, because Torun Gogoi had been very used to national politics. He had not really been in state politics before this. He was a member of parliament. He was much more comfortable in Delhi, and he needed somebody who understood state politics and who would help him navigate state politics very easily, but at the same time somebody who was junior enough, in a sense that he would not be able to double cross him at any point. So that is the reason why, in a sense, Himanta Biswa Sharma fitted that bill. He was chosen, and he did a phenomenal job for Torun Gogoi, because the bureaucracy was taking Torun Gogoi for a ride. Uh, there were a lot of issues that had to be handled continuously, and despite his ministry being the planning ministry and the agriculture ministry, that too at the level of a state minister, he really became somebody whom Tarun Gogoi could depend on for various crises. For instance, the Bodo agitation was something that was picking up at that point. So Himanta Biswa Sharma was the one who used to be on the ground negotiating with the leaders. He played an important part in forming the territorial council back then, and mainstreaming a lot of the leaders who had taken up arms and all of that. Now, then the 2006 assembly elections came, and of course, now in the 2006 assembly elections, uh, there was this sense that the AGP will come back to power, because 5 years of Congress party were over, and Tarun Gogoi himself, in my interviews, I interviewed a lot of people who worked closely with him at that point, and they all say that by 2006, Tarun Gogoi had completely given up. So he was expecting that the AGP would come to power, that the Congress party would lose the elections. Now, Himanta Biswa Sharma was a young minister, a young strategist. He took it upon himself to deliver this victory for the Congress party. And right down to from the alliances to the strategy to the fundraising to the booth level work, he took up all these responsibilities. And he actually saw or sort of analyzed various factors which were at play, that the others who were very seasoned players did not see, or did not really understand at that point. So, for instance, after the Bodo after those who had taken up arms in the Bodo movement came back to the mainstream and this Bodoland Council was formed, there was a party called the BPF under Hagrama Moilari, which had come to power there in that council, which had become very influential in that area. Now, Himanta Biswa Sharma ensured that the Congress party would have an alliance with this party there for the seats in Bodoland. Then, of course, this 2006 elections was the time when Badruddin Ajmal's AIUDF emerged for the first time. Most people had completely dismissed the AIUDF because they thought that this was a very high flying perfume baron. He would not last in the state politics for long. But Hemanta Biswa Sharma had realized that this man is here to stay. He will probably emerge as a very tall leader in Assam in the coming years, because in 2005 there was this IMDT Act which the Supreme Court had struck down, and the person, in fact, who was a petitioner was Sarbanand Sonowal, who was back then a member of parliament in the AGP. Now, because of this, there was a massive backlash in the minority community, and they wanted to rally behind. There was a lot of scope for any politician who would play that card for the minority community to rally behind. And therefore, Himanta Biswa Sharma realized that it's not a good idea to attack this party up front, and that the Congress party needed to build a base in constituencies where they were in a direct confrontation with the AGP. So therefore, all the resources of the party were actually deployed in those areas, and that's where he campaigned the most. He ran a very energetic campaign himself. And finally, they managed to win the 2006 elections, not by much. They did not even reach the halfway mark, but they became the single largest party by a long shot. And then with their allies, the BPF, and with other smaller independents, etc., they managed to, Tarun Gogoi managed to become the chief minister again for a second consecutive term, which was completely unprecedented. And that's when Hemanta Biswa Sharma became the health minister of the state, and he began this completely transformative journey of the healthcare in Assam, which was among the worst in India on several indices, and today it is amongst the top in the country on several indices. And he has served for almost 15 years as the health minister of the state. So that is when that journey began. And then the 2011 elections came about. Now, the 2011 elections, of course, the Congress party swept that elections. They won with a massive mandate, which had not been the case for several election cycles in Assam. And that was completely Himanta Biswa Sharma's doing this time. He was not just the strategist behind the scenes, but he was openly made the strategist of the party for that elections. And he managed to very cleverly do the entire social engineering bit that he pulled off in that election. Was he managed to bring a lot of the indigenous communities, the tea tribes, etc., into the Congress party's fold. And that's how he managed to bring such a massive mandate for himself. And then after 2011, anyway, by 2006, he had become like the main person, the main strategist, the main fundraiser, the main administrator, and not just in Assam, but in the entire region. The Congress party began to depend on him for every election, every by-election, every crisis, every trust vote, every Rajya Sabha election. The Congress party used to completely depend on him for all the northeastern states. And after the 2011 elections, there was a very clear sense that he was the next in line after Tarun Gogoi. It would be Himanta Biswa Sharma. And then, as we know, the emergence of Gaurav Gogoi happened, and there was a lot of pressure on him to sort of step aside so that Gaurav Gogoi could take his father's place at some point. And that's where the friction began really between the Sharma camp and the Gogoi camp. And we would later see that this would culminate in him joining the BJP. But the interesting part about this entire journey is that the values or whatever the guiding principles of the Assam movement or the Assam agitation had been, remained intact even in his long stint with the Congress party. So, for instance, he was once given the ministry. There's a special ministry in Assam called the Implementation of the Assam Accord Ministry, and he was given the charge of that ministry, and he ensured that a record number of kilometers along the border of Assam and Bangladesh were fenced, which had never happened in the past. And then there was a lot of pressure after 2011 for the Congress party to ally with Badruddin Ajmal. This pressure, of course, came from the center after Rahul Gandhi took charge. And again, as the chief strategist of the party, he completely rejected this because he said that, uh, any party that does this will simply lose the indigenous vote. And he was very clear that he was a leader for the indigenous communities there and not for the illegal immigrants. So that remained an essential part of his politics, even when he was in the Congress party. And now, of course, in the BJP, he's being able to practice this kind of politics very openly. But this is something that has been at the core of his politics since the days of his of the Assam agitation. And very interestingly, the Assam agitation is an agitation in which the RSS also took part. In fact, the entire plank uh, of illegal immigration and the fact that something had to be done about it is visible in the RSS's resolutions even before the All Assam Student Union came about. It's there in the RSS's resolutions of the 1950. And Himanto Biswa Sharma even remembers that he attended the RSS shakhas at that point as a little boy, as a teenager, because at that point all of them were together. They were fighting the same battle in a certain sense. And so even today, when he is asked in interviews, not today maybe, but maybe a year or two ago, when he was asked in his interviews that how he was able to adjust to the BJP's culture so easily, he said that it was a little tough to adjust to the party's culture, but I know the RSS since my very young days, since my student days. I know them very well since that point. So that is the reason why he has been at an ideological level. He has been able to transition into the BJP ecosystem so seamlessly.
You, Ajit. That was very well explained. And especially the issue of illegal immigration in Assam and the Assam movement who began. Role of Himanta Biswa Sarma in the movement as a young boy who was at the helm of organizing rallies and as a natural orator who eventually became the blue-eyed boy of the All Assam Student Union. And I think that also explains very well his continuous rise in the political power circle, beginning from his days when he made a mark for himself in the students' body elections of the prestigious Cotton College. You have already elaborated in detail. And also the story of how former Chief Minister Hideswar Saikia managed to co-opt Himanta Biswa Sarma, and then later his induction into the cabinet of former Congress Chief Minister Torun Gogoi, and his exemplary performance as a state minister, especially when tackling problems such as the Bodo agitation. Yes, and you also covered briefly on the rise of Badruddin Ajmal's All India United Democratic Front (AIUDF) in the backdrop of the IMDT Act, which also speaks a lot about the changing demographic complexion of Assam. So, with this, we would now like to hear from you your views on the changing electoral politics of Assam, especially with reference to the last two elections, that is the Legislative Assembly elections of 2016 and 2021. You have already focused on the Assam legislative elections since 2001, which saw the Congress party remain in power for a consecutive period of 15 long years. Its downfall and the subsequent rise to power of the Bharatiya Janata Party in 2016, with Himanta Biswa Sarma playing a crucial role in the rise of the BJP. So, what were the important issues in the 2016 elections and the 2021 elections, especially, that helped Himanta Biswa Sarma's rise to power as the Chief Minister of Assam? And how in the last elections, how was he able to understand the pulse of the people of Assam and accordingly set his strategies to ensure that the BJP not just wins but wins big in Assam? Yes.
Yeah, so actually, before I come to the 2016 and the 2021 elections, as you said, let me just like sort of give you a little bit of a background about the demographic change and the kind of impact that it has had politically in the state, so that I can answer the specific questions about 2016 and 2021. So uh, illegal immigration actually began in the early 20th century into Assam. And the Assam agitation obviously is an agitation or a movement that brought this entire issue absolutely to the center stage of Assamese politics. So after the movement and its culmination in 1985, the issue of illegal immigration has always been right at the center of Assamese politics and Assamese elections. For election cycle after election cycle, that has not changed. I mean, the entire narrative, the discourse, and everything has been around that. Now, during the time when the Assam agitation was taking place, of course, the ASU was considered to be the side that was looking out for the interests of uh, the indigenous community of Assam or the indigenous communities of Assam. And the Congress party, which had continuously, suppressed the ASU in different ways, which had actually which had really pulled off move after move to undermine the Assam movement continuously, and even encourage illegal immigration quite openly. As there's a famous Mangaldoy bipole that took place, which everybody knows about, and how in 1 year the demographics of that constituency had completely altered just to make the Congress party's candidate win. So the Congress party was considered to be on the other side of the political spectrum or the political debate, in which the illegal immigrants or those who supported illegal immigration found acceptance on that side of the political spectrum. So that is how the spectrum was, with the ASU on one side and the Congress on the other, and then the AGP became the party on that replaced the ASU in a certain sense, and the Congress continued to be the party on the other side. Now, the AGP, therefore, of course, Sarbanand Sonowal was in the AGP when he managed to get that IMDT Act to be struck down, which was a big victory for the indigenous communities of Assam. In fact, Sarbanand Sonowal, that's when he got the title of Jatiya Nayak, which means that he was the tallest leader for the entire community at that point. That happened in, I think, in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was the 2006 elections, which saw the rise of Ajmal. Now, what is interesting about the 2006 elections is that on the one side, you see the rise of Ajmal, and he actually becomes the natural leader for that side of the spectrum, which the Congress has occupied for so long, which supports illegal immigrants, etc. And on this side of the spectrum, which was the indigenous communities, you suddenly see that a Congress leader in the form of Himanta Biswa Sharma begins to emerge as the tallest leader on this side of the spectrum, because he was the one who did a lot of the social engineering to bring these communities towards the Congress. And it even happened to a large extent in the 2011 assembly elections. We saw that happening. Uh, so on the one side, although in the 2006 elections, Ajmal did not win as many seats as he won later, as he began to win later, you see the emergence of Ajmal on one side, and you see the emergence of Himanta Biswa Sharma, who's just a first-time MLA and a first-time minister, but who with that one election becomes the chief strategist and the chief administrator and basically the power in the government and in the party at that point. So you see the emergence of these two individuals. And ever since that 2006 elections until today, these two individuals, Himanta Biswa Sharma on the one side and Badruddin Ajmal on the other, have been the two poles of Assam politics. Now, the party for Himanta Biswa Sharma might have changed. He was in the Congress at that point. Now, today he's in the BJP, but his politics has not changed when it comes to the fact that he's the one who has been defending the rights of the indigenous people, while you have Badruddin Ajmal, who has been on the other side of the political divide. So these two have emerged as the main poles of Assamese politics in a sense, and Assamese politics has almost become bipolar in that way. So today, the Congress party, when it makes an alliance with Ajmal, despite the fact that it wins more seats than Ajmal, because Ajmal is the big leader on that side, they are now playing second fiddle. They are like a shadow to Ajmal. That is the condition of Assamese politics today. Now, of course, Himanta Biswa Sharma switched sides due to other reasons. Those were like political circumstances that made him switch to the BJP. And in the 2016 elections, he played the role of one of the important strategists for the party. And the 2016 assembly elections were, of course, uh, they were sort of designed, or like the BJP's campaign in a certain sense was modeled after the last battle of Saraighat, which is a very important milestone in the history of Assam, and it's something that is that is a milestone in the psyche of the indigenous population there, and that is how they sort of framed this entire election. That this was the last battle for the indigenous communities to save themselves. Now, because of the fact that the BJP had started gaining popularity in the state, and Himanta Biswa Sharma brought with him the entire organizational aspect and all of that, the BJP became the prime party, and in the state in that one election cycle, they even won the 2016 assembly elections. Now, the 2021 assembly elections were very interesting because once again the theme or the discourse was pretty much the same, because it was again a bipolar election, and it was again based on on similar issues such as illegal immigration, etc., which had taken center stage. But the interesting part about the 2021 elections was that if you look at the line that Himanta Biswa Sharma adopted in that elections, it was quite unthinkable in the sense that he actually said very openly that I am not going to visit certain areas, and I'm not going to seek votes from people in those areas, because I know that however much I work for them today, they are not going to vote for me. Now, this is something that is not done in politics anywhere in the world, because even if you know that a particular area or a particular group of people are never going to vote for you, you still try to reach out to them at least as a courtesy, or you still try to do that as a token measure. But even that was something that we did not see happen. In fact, we saw its opposite happen in the 2021 assembly elections. Now, in hindsight, what we see is that this was a very calculated move, or a very carefully planned move that he made, because when the Congress party decided that they would align with Badruddin Ajmal, the Congress party had completely miscalculated. They thought that their whatever base that they have, and if you add Ajmal's base to that, and if you add the BPF's base to that, the Bodo vote, then they would actually manage to make a dent, or they would manage to overthrow the BJP government in the state. But what happened was that because Ajmal was on the side of the Congress party, and because BPF joined the same alliance, actually none of the people from the indigenous community voted for that alliance. I mean, the BPF started losing its seats in Bodoland. The Congress only managed to win in areas that were predominantly dominated by the minority community. And of course, Ajmal retained his vote. But then, wherever the indigenous community still had a majority, the fight became completely bipolar. And it was quite easy for the BJP to win the 2021 elections in that way. So that is how this entire the demographic battle has sort of played out on the electoral arena.
Thank you, Ajit, for bringing to light the politics behind the changing demographic composition of Assam since the pre-independence days that eventually culminated in the Assam agitation of 1979, beginning from the Mongolway constituency in Dorong district of Lower Assam. Also, the emergence of Maulana Badruddin Ajmal on the one side and Himanta Biswa Sarma on the other in the political platform of Assam has always been the two poles, especially since the rise to power of the AIPF, the backdrop of the IPF. So, in this context, how would you analyze the current policies of the government of Assam under the leadership of Chief Minister Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma, especially the ongoing eviction drives in several parts of Assam, like the one that happened at Gurukti in September 2021, and which also had garnered quite a lot of international media attention from Pakistan's Dawn TV to Al Jazeera.
Hmm.
Also, the rise of certain Islamic fundamentalist organizations uh, in Lower Assam, like the PFI, Popular Front of India, which Mr. Sarma has also pointed fingers at several times, even during the eviction that was going on at Gurukuti. So, how would you like to analyze all these incidents that has been taking place in the background of the changing demographic complexion of Assam?
Yeah, so Himanta Biswa Sharma is somebody who remains very clear about the fundamentals of his politics, in the sense that where his fundamentals were during the Assam agitations, those fundamentals still remain. He understands that his hands are probably tied in various ways because of the current circumstances and because of a lot of other things. But the fact that illegal immigration is something that has to stop, the fact that there is no place for illegal immigrants in Assam, is something that he has worked for and that he will continue to work for. I mean, there is no doubt about that. Now, today, of course, the circumstances have changed a lot. There are things that are very different. For instance, uh, you see, now last month, just last month, uh, the government has again, the Assam government and Himanta Biswa Sharma himself have again said that they want the NRC exercise to be repeated, because the first time that it happened, it was a court mandated version of it, and obviously there were many discrepancies, and it is believed that because of the relaxations in what documents you could show and all of that, a lot of people who are illegal immigrants managed to get into this list. So initially, he had tried to negotiate for re-verification of only 10% in most districts and 20% in districts bordering Bangladesh. But now the government is once again looking to do this exercise all over again. Now, this is not just, I mean, this is of course one of the very, very major steps, and it still remains to be seen whether that happens or not. But as you were mentioning, the eviction drives that have taken place now, acres of forest land, acres of hundreds of acres, in fact, of temple land, were all occupied by illegal immigrants, and they have now been driven out of these places. You see that there is a very that there is this sense that this new government is very uncompromising when it comes to any the illegal immigrants breaking any law, for instance, or the illegal immigrants affecting the culture and the identity that is indigenous to the state, whether it is to pass the latest cattle bill, whether it was the love jihad law, whether it was uh, you know uh, shutting down the madrasas, whatever it is. This is a government that has not really shied away from these controversial decisions. It has taken them as and when the need for them have arisen, because somewhere Himanta Biswa Sharma also understands that it is very important to disincentivize illegal immigration. It is very important for those who are potentially illegal immigrants, or for those who think that they have immigrated to Assam illegally, to know that life will not be simple here if you have done something illegal, if you have immigrated illegally. So that is a very important part of his current approach towards all of this. Now, of course, there is the other approach that he is also trying simultaneously, where these madrasas, for instance, that have been shut down are now being converted to mainstream schools, because he openly tells them that you don't want to spend the rest of your life becoming, let's say, a mullah or something like that. If you want to become a doctor or an engineer, or come into the mainstream instead of wallowing in that extremism, uh, we will find a way for you to do that. And so therefore you find a way in which you actually manage to, and this is of course with the indigenous Muslim population, where you manage to reconcile modern realities with where they stand currently, and you at the same time manage to preserve your own identity and your culture instead of that continuously eroding since the last so many decades. So he's finding these many ways. The PFI that you mentioned, he's taking them on at the level of the state. He's using law and order to take them on. Uh, so he's using every mechanism that is possible to protect the indigenous community, to protect the indigenous culture. Uh, Now, of course, the NRC will be a big help if that actually happens. That remains to be seen. But that is where things are headed. He is definitely taking all of these into the same direction. They will culminate probably at the same point. So there is definitely that drive that is taking place under him.
Well said. Yes, the importance of disincentivizing illegal immigration. Well, true. So I think within an hour of a discussion, actually, we covered a lot about the history and politics of
Yeah.
Assam, and I'm sure it must have been an eye opener for those in the audience who are not much aware of this phenomena. So before we end our discussion, one last question, Ajit, that I would like to put across is after the coming to power of Mr. Dr. Sharma, certain very important developments that we have been noticing in not just Assam but also in the Northeast, like the recently concluded Manipur Legislative Assembly elections. We also saw an important role being played by Himanta Biswa Sarma as the convener of NEDA, or Northeast Democratic
Yeah.
Alliance. Also, the recently concluded the pact between Assam and Meghalaya governments on resolving the border road. So, and how the government of Assam is now taking this opportunity to resolve other border roads, like with Arunachal Pradesh, with Nagaland, with all the rest of the states in the northeast. And immediately after he came to power, within just 2 months last year, it was in July 2021 that a major border violence took place in Mizoram, and which also led to the death of several policemen, and many civilians were also injured in the firing. It was very, very unfortunate. And it was after that incident which actually led Himanta Biswa Sarma to resolve conclusively this border road between Assam and the rest of the states in the northeast. So, how do you see in this context, a new role for this leader, a new role of Himanta Biswa Sarma in the context of, in the larger context of the northeast, as not just as the convener of NEDA, but how has he been able to place the northeast in the fulcrum of all political developments, and in what we call mainstream India. I should not be using this word mainstream, but how has he been able to place the concerns and interests of the Northeast in the larger political discourse of India? And also in this context, I also remember uh, the 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 pacts and the different agreements that government of Assam has entered into with the Boro militant groups. Also the Karbi militant groups in Dima Hasao, with ULFA also, the United Liberation Front of Assam. Like after coming to power, Himanta ji gave a call to Paresh Purra of ULFA
Yeah.
Independent to join the negotiations. And interestingly, he also reciprocated. Uh, this carves out an entirely new role with Himanta ji at the center of the Northeast. So, what is your take on this? Just you can explain it briefly before
Yeah,
we.
so basically, this is a big transition that we are seeing happening in the country with the Northeast, which was uh, through the Congress years, right from the era of Nehru and Indira Gandhi, and we see that there was this massive almost stepmotherly treatment that the Northeast was given. They were always neglected, and despite the fact that for most of the time there were Congress state governments there and all that, and today we see that it is really being treated as a national priority for many because of many factors. Now, Himanta Biswa Sharma as an individual has been at the center of the Northeast's politics since 2006. uh, so therefore, uh, he obviously would have wanted uh, something like this to happen from the very beginning. But the fact is that it is happening only today, and a large part of the credit for this should also go to the central government or to the BJP, because this is a government, especially under Narendra Modi, that has really gone, uh, put in a lot of effort uh, for the northeastern region. So whether it is the fact that several big ticket infrastructure projects have been which have been languishing for so many decades have been finally completed. Many more new ones have begun at several levels. You see that there's a lot of interest, both at a political level, obviously, where they have made sure that their party, the BJP, dominates the region, as well as at an administrative level, where they are constantly making sure that development reaches these states, and that these states continue to emerge as very important states in the country. So this is a government that realizes that there is plenty of potential in the region. At the same time, the region is very vulnerable strategically. It can be, if it is leveraged correctly, it can be extremely useful for the country in so many ways, especially at a strategic level. But it still remains very vulnerable strategically, and that is what this government has attempted to change. Now, for instance, this the amount of in the last few years, especially, the amount of groups that were armed and that were running their own resistance campaigns and all of that in various parts of the region, the amount of such people who have actually successfully been brought to the table, who have actually been brought to the mainstream after that, after protracted negotiations, is itself shows that at the very top, the current home ministry, for instance, and not just under Amit Shah, but even under Rajnath Singh, there was this tremendous drive to bring all these people back into the mainstream, so that unrest does not persist in that region, stability comes about in that region. uh, as chief minister, Himanta Biswa Sharma is going to complete 1 year, I think, next month, or a month from now. But sorry, not a month from now, but just next month. But the if you see what he has focused on in this 1 year, it is essentially big ticket law and order issues, where you see that he goes after the drug mafia, for instance. He goes after and the border clashes that we witnessed with other states was, I mean, if sources are to be believed, this the drug mafia had a big role to play, because they were so powerful that they had their own lobbies within the security forces, etc. And that is why you see two police forces actually clashed, which is unthinkable of. And now you see that these issues are being sorted for the first time. They have come across, with the help of the center, both chief ministers have managed to thrash out an agreement. which is a very a complete milestone. It's something that has not taken place for all these years. But they're managing to do it. So the good part about this is that they have a leader on the ground who's extremely effective, who's willing to put in all the effort that he can, who understands the region, who knows people there in and out, and who gets the job done, come what may. And at the same time, you have a government at the center that is very interested in sorting out all these issues, long-standing issues of so many years, and ensuring that the region finally sees long-term stability, so that it emerges as an important part of the country. So it is a combination of both these factors which we see playing out, and yeah, I mean, I think things are going in the right direction when it comes to this.
Thank you. Yes, yes, the stepmotherly attitude of the previous Congress governments towards the Northeast, which actually led to the emergence of so many different problems beginning from the post-independence era. And also, you mentioned the point on the strategic location of Northeast India and how the current government at the center, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, well understands this, especially keeping in mind the purpose of the Act East policy and
Yeah.
why the Northeast is very, very important for the successful implementation of the Act East policy. Thank you so much, Ajit, for joining us today for a conversation at the Center for Indic Studies for a discussion of not just your book, but so many different aspects of the politics, society, and the history of Assam. I think I would now open the floor for discussion to our audience. If any one of you has any questions, any point to raise, anything to comment on, please feel free to do that.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Very interesting, and I loved how you asked questions and your answers. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm so inspired to hear. My question was, you said that because Himantaji, he has grown up in Assam, worked from the ground up, worked from a young age, so people know about that history. So he has a certain cult following. But I think early on you mentioned that he has that kind of a following across the northeastern states. And I'm wondering how come the other states which have become more Christianized and have been influenced by missionaries, feel kind of against the government or against the indigenous people sometimes, the Hindu population sometimes. How did they find this following in Himantaji? How did that come about?
Yeah, thank you so much. So, actually, Hemanta Biswa Sharma has, as a mass leader, of course, is a mass leader in Assam, uh, as a pan Assam leader. He has played the role of a campaigner in other states, but more than a campaigner, he has played the role of a strategist in other northeastern states. For whatever it was, whether it was elections, whether it was by-elections, whatever it was, he was more of a backroom strategist in these states. However, as you mentioned, there are Christian majority states. There are states where there has been in the past a lot of resentment against the central government and things like that. Now, there are both, there is the political factor as well as the administrative factor, and somewhere they are linked also, because what you see currently is that these states, even with a majority Christian population, are electing governments that are in alliance with the BJP, or they are in alliance with the central government, which is, of course, the BJP's government. And that is because there is a very clear sense that this is a government that is serious about the region, and that if there is an alignment with that thought process in the center, which is serious about this region, then the fruits of development, etc., are going to reach the ground there, which is actually happening in many of the smaller states as well in the Northeast. So there is that sense which has come about. And the smaller parties, in fact, have also realized that this will happen only when they are in an alliance with the BJP. And that is the reason why the NEDA was constituted in the first place, because they were very clear about the fact that they do not want to disrupt the turf of these smaller parties in the smaller states. They want to only target the Congress and, of course, the communists in Tripura. But they want to largely target the Congress in this region because it is the Congress that has been, stalling development. It is the Congress under whom all this unrest has been fostering for so many decades, etc. And so they came about more as a solution to the problem. That is the approach that they took. And so far, because of this approach, they have also had tremendous electoral success.
Thank you. Um, I was also wondering because you said that his politics hasn't changed from when he was in the Congress for such a long time, and then he moved to BJP. It's continued the same way, and that shift also happened because of a political chance thing. It wasn't planned because of any reason. So, in the Congress, because we know that across the country, not just in the Northeast, but particularly in the Northeast, there was a lot of neglect towards our
Yeah.
populations. But across the country also, there was this kind of pushing away of the indigenous and more very Western style communist Marxist. We know all of those tilts that Congress had. So how was that compatibility working? I mean, how did they feel like they can accept such a candidate other than the fact that he got so many votes in, with the huge indigenous people he had on his side? Outside of that, how did that not end up in a friction and politics of wanting him out of Congress because of the divergent fundamental politics?
Of course, there was a lot of neglect, as you say. So this is not even a region that the Congress, looked at or took very seriously for a long time. In fact, even if you look at how they handled the entire leadership issue when, when Himanta Biswa Sharma walked out, it was not that he walked out overnight. He made attempts to reach out so many times to them. It was they who kept sort of, not taking him seriously until the day that he simply walked out, which was more than a year after he actually brought up after which these leadership issues had come to the fore. So that is the way that they had always treated the region. Of course, Hiteshwar Saikia had gone out of his way to co-opt Himanta Biswa Sharma as a personal initiative. And at that time, of course, there was Narasimha Rao at the helm of affairs, who was probably much more probably politically aware and oriented towards uh, positive change than the other Congress leadership that we have seen before him and after him. But at the same time, one thing that Himanta Biswa Sharma has also mentioned many times is that after he became the chief strategist of the Congress party, at least up until the point that Sonia Gandhi was calling the shots in the party, she respected his judgment from the ground. That, if he told them that this is how things would pan out, because he was, sitting there 24/7 and he knew the region's politics, at least his judgment would be respected. But then this is what changed when Rahul Gandhi came in, and Rahul Gandhi from the beginning wanted an alliance with Badruddin Ajmal, which Himanta Biswa Sharma knew was something that was completely not compatible. And this is not just the question of an alliance with Badruddin Ajmal, but time after time, you see that Himanta Biswa Sharma's interactions with Rahul Gandhi, especially in that period of 1.5 years uh, when he was being neglected and he was trying to tell them that they need a change in leadership. That is very well documented. I mean, not just in my book, but in various places. And it's something that Himanta Biswa Sharma himself is very open about. And there are instances when he is telling Rahul Gandhi that, you see, if in today's scenario, we are going to win 25 or 26 seats out of the 120 seats. That's where our party stands today. That's how much it has collapsed. And he's getting answers from Rahul Gandhi like, no, that is not the case. I mean, I know what is going on and all of that. You don't know, and things like that. And he's actually talking to the tallest leader who, understands the ground. So that kind of arrogance set in probably in the Rahul Gandhi era, not in the Sonia Gandhi era so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So you were also mentioning how Himantaji was trying to understand the needs of the indigenous Assamese population, especially the indigenous Muslims, and talking to them about, do you want to become doctors and not the madrasa education? He was trying to give them better opportunities. Now, how did he get across to them outside of saying, well, if you go through the mainstream education, you can get a job, you can get financial independence, or, more opportunities? Outside of that argument, what other things did he do? Because a lot of Muslims are very, religiously inclined. They are very into their belief system and their faith. So they might feel like, well, I want to follow this path. Why are you trying to divert me? And might feel like they are against the leader. Why is the leader going against us? So how did he manage to convince them?
No, I mean, so I was talking of this issue in particular because I have not looked at the other issues. In fact, I don't think any other issue in this, at least when it comes to this, has really emerged in the limelight. Maybe there is one, which is that this entire bill about the cattle slaughter bill, which came about, where he said that within 5 kilometers of a temple we will not have cattle being slaughtered, is something that generated a lot of noise in the Lothians media and in other parts of India. But if you see on the ground in Assam, things happened very, very smoothly. That there was absolutely no issue on the ground, because he had in fact reached out even there to the indigenous community, and he had told them that I mean, we are going to implement this, and they had accepted it at that point. So I do not know. Maybe he is obviously he's an extremely persuasive person. He manages to put his point across. He manages to take people along with him. No doubt he has that quality in him. Whether it was the way that this issue was addressed, or whether it was how the madrasa issue was addressed. Where again, all the noise comes only from Delhi and from the Delhi media. You don't see that on the ground in Assam. So it is possible that he is managing to have a dialogue with the indigenous community at various levels, and he is managing to in a very sustained way put his point across and gain their acceptability. That is a possibility. I don't know, but it is certainly happening without any problem on the ground. That part is visible.
Okay. Well, that now brings us to the end of our today's discussion. I would request everyone to buy a copy of this book, Himanta Biswa Sarma, From Boy Wonder to CM, not just to understand the political career graph of our Chief Minister, but also to understand the political history of Assam and one of the most challenging problems that the state has been facing since the pre-independence era, that is demographic change. Because this is not about xenophobia, this is not about some fancy sounding academic vocabularies like Islamophobia or even communalism for that matter. It is an existential threat for the culture and civilization of Assam at present. And it is also a serious challenge from the point of view of India's national security. Ajit ji has already brought this out in his discussion today with respect to the threats that Hindu religious places of worship and institutions face today, and how the current dispensation under the leadership of CM Himanta Biswa Sarma is trying to address this crisis as best as they can with all the possible means. Thank you once again, Ajit ji, for joining us today.
Thank you
We
so
look
much.
forward to having more such conversations